Here we go again. Seems like we were just here back in June talking about the same subject. Not sure much has changed. We're continuing the focus on revenue. Very little discussion on the other side of the ledger on expenses and how we're spending the money that we already take in. I'd like to ask the question, what is the cost? We're talking about the fact that we can raise another $1 billion and change or so with the 1% increase in sales tax. But people need to recognize that there's a cost associated with this. There's a cost to people that are struggling already to make ends meet, to have an extra tax, not just on gas, but on groceries and anything else that they purchase in a sales transaction. And there's a cost to our economy. Michigan's finally on a comeback trail right now, and there's nothing that slows down a comeback more than increasing taxes. We are elected to represent the best interests of our constituents. We were elected to make tough decisions, decisions that put the best interests of our constituents at the top of our considerations. Now, it's true that this will go to a vote of the people. This resolution will require that we vote whether or not we want to increase, the people of the citizens of Michigan will vote on whether or not to increase our taxes by another percentage point. But I guess my first 4 years in public office have taught me to be a little bit cynical. And I wish that weren't so, I really do. Going into the June time frame, we were subject to a lot of advertising saying, just fix the roads. The fact is, there's a lot of money invested in growing the size of our government. There's very little money available to invest in making sure that our government tightens its belt and respects the pocketbooks of our citizens. And so I'm concerned that there's going to be a barrage of advertisements. If you go out in the lobby right now, up in the state capitol, there's a lot of lobbyists that are sitting there anxious for an increase in funding for our roads right now. And many are doing it for very altruistic reasons, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on a lot of that. But the fact is, we need to make sure that we're taking a step back as senators and making sure that we're representing the best interests of the folks that aren't out in that lobby. They're the people that just elected us back into office. So my point is, even though this will be on the ballot for consideration, I want to make sure that we are making sure that we have the other side of this topic, other side of this issue, getting equal airtime. And if we're subject to another barrage of saying we're last in per capita spending, when we don't spend money based on the number of bodies in our state, we spend our highway dollars based on the cost per mile. And when you actually look at the cost per mile figures, we spend 27% more than the national average in the latest study from Reason Foundation, 27% more per mile than the national average. And if you look at it on a lane mile perspective, we're still 7% more per lane mile. So that tells you that we've got an expense problem. We're spending more than the rest of the folks in our country. Now, that could be for a variety of different reasons, but the fact is, if we were to put half as much effort as we've done into looking at ways of increasing taxes, if we were to put that effort into looking at ways to decrease our expenses, especially total life cycle expenses, we would have a lot more solutions up for consideration right now. So my challenge to my colleagues here is to make sure that in this vote, and in all the votes we're going to be talking about today that look at raising taxes, that we make sure that we're representing the best interests of our constituents. And when we do that, I found that tax increases should always be the last solution considered, instead of what happens too often here in Lansing and frankly up in D.C. as well. Tax increases seem to always be the first solution. So it's with this understanding that I urge my colleagues to vote no on this legislation. I'd like my comments added to the Journal. Thank you.